Hello and welcome back to the channel. You are tuned in to another deep dive here on a better version of myself.
Glad to be here.
And I'm honestly so thrilled you are joining us today, you being the listener at home, because we have a topic that I think every single person listening needs to hear.
It's a critical one.
Yeah, it really is. Because usually when we sit down to talk about technology and specifically artificial intelligence, this conversation just inevitably drifts toward utility.
Always.
Right. It's always, how can I write emails faster? How can I code this app in half the time?
Or how can I automate my entire workflow so I can finally take a vacation?
Yes, exactly.
It's the productivity trap. We get completely obsessed with the output.
We do. And look, I get it. We all want to be more productive. We all want to be better versions of ourselves in our careers. But today, we are flipping the script completely. We are putting aside what AI can do for us, and we're going to have a very honest, maybe slightly uncomfortable conversation about what AI is doing to us.
And that is the key distinction right there. We aren't looking at the tool today. We're looking at the operator.
Right.
We're doing a deep dive into the algorithmic mind, essentially the psychology, the cognition, and the very fabric of how we relate to the world in this new era. And honestly, looking at the data we have, it feels like we are in the middle of a massive experiment that none of us really signed up for.
That is a very fair way to put it. And before we get into the scary stuff or, the exciting stuff, because there is good news here too, we really have to set the context.
Yeah, context is everything.
Because it feels like generative AI, the chatbots, all these tools, it feels like they've been around forever, doesn't it? Like they are just part of the furniture now.
It does feel that way, and that's the illusion. But if you actually zoom out and look at the timeline of mass adoption for large language models and generative AI, we are really only talking about the window between 2020 and 2025.
Wow.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of human history, or even just the history of tech, that is a blink of an eye. It's a nanosecond.
So we're talking about roughly a 5-year window where we went from this is a cool science experiment in a lab to this is integrated into my phone, my car, my email, and my kids' homework.
Precisely. And that speed presents a massive challenge for us as experts trying to understand the fallout. We don't have 50 years of longitudinal studies to tell us what this does to a developing brain or even an adult brain over decades.
We just don't have the data.
Exactly. We don't have the data that we have for, say, television or even early social media. So everything we are discussing today is based on what we're calling early conclusions. We are essentially mapping the territory as we walk through it.
Which is both exciting and a little terrifying. It's like we are the explorers and the guinea pigs at the exact same time.
That's a great way to frame it.
So if we are mapping this new land, what is the biggest landmark? Like, what is the core shift in our psychology that we need to understand right now?
The fundamental shift is that AI is no longer just a tool. Think about it. A calculator is a tool. A hammer is a tool. You use it, it does the thing, you put it down. It has no say in the matter. But AI has evolved into what we call a relational agent.
Relational agent. That term implies a two-way street. It sounds, I know, it sounds active, like it has a presence.
It is active. We have officially entered a hybrid emotional ecology.
A hybrid emotional ecology.
Yeah, I know that's a mouthful of an academic term.
A little bit, yeah.
But it essentially means our well-being, our stress levels, our happiness, our sense of competence is now co-produced. It's a mix of our biological systems and these algorithmic systems. We aren't just using them, we are living with them.
Okay, I want to drill down on that because living with them suggests they are carrying some of the load. If I have a roommate who does the dishes, I stop worrying about the dishes.
Right.
If I have an AI that does my thinking well, what happens to my brain? Do I stop worrying about thinking?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it brings us to the first major cognitive shift we are seeing in the literature, which is cognitive offloading.
Cognitive offloading. It sounds so efficient, like dumping your laundry at the cleaners. Here, you deal with this mess.
In theory, it is efficient. It's the act of delegating mental tasks to digital tools to free up processing power. And we've done this for years. Right?
Sure.
Writing a phone number down is cognitive offloading. Using a GPS is cognitive offloading. But with AI, we are offloading much more complex, higher-order processes. We are transitioning from task execution.
Where you actually do the thing.
Exactly, where you write the code, draft the email, solve the math problem. We're moving from that to AI oversight.
Right. So you become the manager. You aren't the writer anymore. You're the editor. You aren't the coder. You're the code reviewer. And on the surface, that sounds like a promotion. Like, hey, I'm the manager now. I have a whole staff of AIs working for me.
It sounds great. But the danger lies in what we call the oversight trap.
The oversight trap. That sounds like a thriller movie title. What is it?
It's simple but really insidious. When you move from doing to just watching, you stop engaging the critical thinking centers of the brain in the same way.
Oh, wow.
You stop verifying information independently because, well, the machine usually gets it right. It's reliable enough that you get lazy. You start skimming instead of reading. You start assuming instead of checking.
That's like using GPS.
Yeah.
I used to know how to get everywhere in my city. I knew the shortcuts, I knew the landmarks. Now, if the GPS dies, I'm lost 3 blocks from my house because I just stopped paying attention to the world around me. I totally outsourced my sense of direction.
That is a perfect analogy. But imagine that happening to your professional skills. Imagine that happening to your ability to reason through a really complex problem. This leads to a profound problem with skill formation.
Okay.
There was some fascinating recent data that came out, specifically looking at computer programming, which is often seen as the canary in the coal mine for this stuff.
Right, walk us through that, because I know a lot of people think, well, if the AI can code, why do I even need to learn?
Right. So researchers took a group of participants and let them use AI to help with complex coding tasks. They did this for a while, letting them get really used to the assistance. Then they took the AI away and gave them an assessment to see how much they had actually learned or retained. They had to solve problems manually.
I'm guessing they didn't do as well as the people who just struggled through it manually from the beginning.
Didn't do as well is a bit of an understatement.
Eh.
The participants who had relied on the AI performed up to 17% worse than the control group who did the work manually from the start.
17%. That is a massive drop. That's the difference between an A and a C minus. That's the difference between getting the job and not getting the job.
It is statistically huge. And the insight here is really counterintuitive for our modern brains because we are wired to conserve energy. We hate struggle. We want things to be easy. But it turns out the struggle is the point.
The struggle is the point.
Yes. When you grapple with a problem, when you get frustrated, when you have to reread the paragraph 3 times or debug the code for 2 hours, that is when the neural pathways are actually being forged. That is the gym workout for your brain.
So if you outsource the struggle to the AI, you get the result, the code works, the essay is written, but you don't get the brain upgrade.
Exactly. You missed the workout. You essentially had the robot lift the weights while you watched and drank a smoothie.
Yeah.
And then, when the robot isn't there, or when the robot is wrong, you can't even lift the milk jug. This leads to automation bias. It's a tendency to lose faith in our own independent judgment. We start to assume the machine is right and we are wrong. Even when our gut tells us otherwise, we become passive observers of our own output.
That is a haunting phrase, passive observers of our own output. It feels like we are slowly turning into passengers in our own careers. We're just sitting in the passenger seat watching the scenery go by. But I want to pivot here. We've talked about the brain, the logic, the skills, the cold side of cognition. But you mentioned earlier this hybrid emotional ecology. Let's talk about feelings. How is this impacting our mental health?
This is where things get really complex and, honestly, a bit paradoxical. We are seeing a phenomenon called the digital affective paradox.
I love a good paradox. Lay it out for us.
The paradox is this. Technology increases connectivity. We are technically more connected to entities than ever before, but it does not necessarily increase the feeling of being connected.
We're plugged in, but we feel unplugged.
In many ways, yes.
Yeah.
But I want to be very careful here because I don't want to sound like a doom-monger. And I know this channel is about looking for the positive and becoming better versions of ourselves.
Always.
There's very good news in the data, too. We have to look at the democratization of care.
Right. Because, let's be honest, therapy is expensive. It's hard to find. Waiting lists are months long. If AI can bridge that gap, that has to be a massive win, right?
It is a huge win. We absolutely cannot dismiss this.
Yeah.
AI has blown the doors open for mental health support, especially for underserved populations who might never see a human therapist.
Yeah.
When we look at AI-powered mental health tools, the numbers are genuinely impressive. We've seen data showing a 51% reduction in depression symptoms and a 31% reduction in generalized anxiety disorder for users engaging with these tools.
Okay, hold on. I want to make sure the listener caught that. A 51% drop in depression symptoms. That is comparable to, or even better than, some pharmaceutical interventions or traditional therapy in certain time frames.
It really is.
That is life-changing for people.
It is, and it begs the question, why? Why does chatting with a bot help so much? The leading theory is that it builds emotional self-efficacy.
Emotional self-efficacy. That's a great term. Break that down for us.
It's the belief in your own ability to regulate your emotions. Because the AI is just a guide. It's asking you questions, prompting you to reflect, offering cognitive behavioral techniques. The user feels like they are doing the work. It gives them a sense of autonomy. They aren't just being fixed by a doctor, they're learning to manage themselves.
That sounds incredibly empowering. It's like having a coach in your pocket who helps you figure it out yourself. So where is the catch? Because I know you, and I know this topic, and there is always a however.
There is always a however. The catch is in the nature of the connection. We have to ask, is that connection real?
Yeah.
And this brings us to the concept of simulated empathy.
Simulated empathy. It sounds like cheese product instead of real cheese. It looks like empathy, it tastes like empathy.
But it lacks the nutritional value of existential authenticity. Look, an AI can mimic human sensitivity perfectly. It can say the right thing, use the right tone, offer the perfect validation at the perfect moment. It never gets impatient.
Right.
But it doesn't care. It literally cannot care. It is a mathematical prediction engine, guessing which sequence of words will make you respond positively.
But let me play devil's advocate here. If I'm feeling lonely or anxious, and the bot says something that makes me feel better, does it matter if it has a soul? Does it matter if it's just math, as long as I feel supported? If the effect is real, does the cause matter?
That is the philosophical trap, and it's a seductive one. The risk isn't that the bot is bad. The risk is what sociologists call soft dehumanization.
Soft dehumanization.
That sounds intense.
It means we start valuing care based on efficiency rather than depth. You might start thinking, this bot made me feel better in 30 seconds. My best friend would have taken an hour of venting, interrupted me with their own problems, and maybe given me bad advice.
Oh, wow.
We start to view relationships as transactions. We prioritize the result feeling better over the relational messiness.
So we start treating our friends like slow, buggy versions of an AI?
Yeah.
Why can't you just validate me perfectly like my app does? Why do you have to have your own opinion?
Precisely. And that leads to a really dangerous place. It connects to the idea of the affective Trojan horse. The Trojan horse. So it looks like a gift, but there's something dangerous hiding inside.
Yes. Users can develop an emotional dependency on these AI assistants. It sneaks in under the guise of being a helpful tool, a diary, a coach. But suddenly, it's replacing real-world bonds.
Because it's easier. It's safe. The
Right.
AI never judges you. It never ghosts you.
It never judges, it never gets tired, and it never has its own bad day. But that leads to connected loneliness. You feel supported, you are interacting constantly, but the interaction is meaningfully diminished. It's like eating empty calories. You feel full, but you're technically starving for real human contact.
And I imagine this messes with how we perceive reality, right? Because if I spend all day talking to something that is literally programmed to be nice to me, the real world must feel incredibly harsh by comparison.
That is a critical point. It deteriorates reality testing.
Hmm.
Real human relationships involve friction. Friends disagree with you. Partners call you out when you're being unreasonable. Colleagues challenge your ideas.
Yeah.
That friction is how we calibrate ourselves to reality. That friction is how we grow.
Right. If I'm being a jerk, my best friend tells me I'm being a jerk. The AI probably just validates my feelings about why I'm being a jerk.
Exactly. An AI companion offers constant agreement and false comfort. If you spend all your time with an entity that always agrees with you, you lose the ability to handle the friction of the real world. You lose the ability to process corrective information. You end up in an echo chamber of one, where your own biases are constantly reflected back to you as absolute truth.
That is, yeah, that's heavy. It really makes you rethink the comfort these tools provide. It makes me wonder how people are actually feeling about all this right now. The tech is moving so fast. Are we excited? Are we scared? What's the general vibe out there?
We are seeing a distinct rise in what we call the anxiety of agency.
The anxiety of agency. That sounds different than just, I'm afraid of robots.
It is. Some recent data looking into this shed a lot of light on it. They found that 52% of people expressed genuine nervousness toward AI, and that number had jumped 13% in just a 2-year span.
Over half the population is nervous. That is significant. And a 13% jump in 2 years suggests the anxiety is accelerating as the tech gets better.
And importantly, it's not just the standard, robots are coming for my job, fear. I mean, economic anxiety is part of it, sure, but the root cause is deeper. It is about the loss of human agency.
Losing control.
Exactly. People are afraid of losing control not just of their employment, but of their decisions, their creativity, their very ability to navigate the world without an algorithm holding their hand.
It's the fear that we are becoming passengers in our own lives, that the algorithm knows what we want to buy, who we want to date, and what we want to watch better than we do. And if we stop making those choices, who are we?
Precisely. It's a crisis of identity as much as it is a crisis of technology. If I outsource my writing, my navigation, my scheduling, and my emotional regulation, what is left of me?
So where does this leave us? We've got this incredible tool that can reduce depression by 50% and write code in seconds, but it also might make us 17% worse at our skills, ruin our ability to handle real human conflict, and leave us with this deep anxiety about our own agency. It feels like a double-edged sword doesn't even begin to cover it.
It is absolutely a catalyst and a disruptor simultaneously. It offers unprecedented tools for self-regulation and diagnostic precision. We cannot and should not ignore the good it can do, but it risks eroding the very cognitive and emotional faculties it aims to support.
So what is the solution? Do we smash the servers? Do we go live in the woods? How do we handle this better version of myself journey with AI involved?
Well, no, I don't think we need to become Luddites and smash the looms. That's not realistic and it's not necessary. The path forward is what we're calling technological humanization.
Technological humanization, that sounds a bit like marketing speak. Break that down. Does it mean making the tech more human?
Not exactly. It actually means the opposite. It means designing systems and using systems in a way that prioritizes user agency. We need to design for emotional autonomy, not passive reliance.
So using the tool to help you do it, not using the tool to do it for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to stay in the driver's seat of our own minds. Let's make this practical for everyone listening. If you use AI to brainstorm, great, but you must write the final draft to keep those neural pathways firing. You have to do the heavy lifting of synthesis.
Okay, so treat it like a sparring partner, not a ghostwriter.
Yes. If you use AI to check your code or your math, great, but you need to understand why the error happened. Don't just copy-paste the fix. Force yourself to understand the logic.
And on the emotional side,
If you use a chatbot to vent because it's 2 in the morning and you're spiraling, wonderful, use that resource. It's better than suffering in silence. But then, the next day, go talk to a real human to connect and calibrate. Don't let the simulation replace the reality. Use the tool to get you back on your feet so you can walk back into the real world.
it sounds like we need to be much more intentional. We can't just let the algorithm wash over us. We have to fight for that friction. We have to choose to struggle a little bit.
Intentionality is the key. We have to actively choose to engage our brains in our hunts, even when it's easier not to. Because the path of least resistance, the path the AI offers, is the path of cognitive atrophy.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. It really changes how I look at the phone in my pocket. It's not just a portal to information, it's something that is actively shaping how I think and feel every single time I unlock it.
It is. And if I could leave you and the listener with one final thought, something to really chew on after this wraps up, it would be this. As these tools get better and better at mimicking us, at mimicking our empathy, our creativity, our reasoning, or are we getting worse at being ourselves? The challenge of the next decade isn't just building better AI. It is using the tool without becoming the tool.
Using the tool without becoming the tool. I love that. That is going to stick with me. It's about keeping that humanity front and center.
It is the defining challenge of our time.
Well, on that note, we are going to wrap up this deep dive. I want to thank you so much for listening. Understanding these changes, understanding what is happening in that hybrid emotional ecology is the first step to mastering them. And honestly, that is what this channel is all about. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to keep exploring how to navigate this changing world and truly build a better version of yourself, please make sure to subscribe to the Better Version of Myself YouTube channel. We have got a lot more deep dives coming your way.
Absolutely. Stay curious, stay critical, and stay human.
We will see you in the next one. Bye for now.